Welcome, welcome to Raw Talk with Dr. Cami and Dr. Brandy. So, I have been working through a childhood trauma course, learning how to be a teacher of trauma, clear your trauma. And I am currently on the Anahata, the heart chakra, which is all about forgiveness, compassion, and unconditional love, which kind of all mean the same thing, right? And we all resonate to a different one of those as we go through our healing more than the other. Sometimes unconditional love, especially for loving of self, seems to be a little hard for people that I work with. So I am very curious to hear how you approach unconditional love with your patients and clients, and how do you explain that, and how is that received with them?
Well, um, if you guys don't know me already, I'm a huge fan of the Ascended Master of Jesus, of the Christ consciousness. And sometimes it could be a touchy topic because of religious trauma around the word Jesus the Christ, right? But anyways, I was having a conversation with Jesus a few years ago, and he said to me, because it's the same battle, like I never understood the concept of unconditional love, and because people are broken, you know? And so many people get hurt with the idea of unconditionally loving. And you'll hear clients say, I just need to be unconditionally loved. And my mom and my dad love me conditionally. It's like we all do. And Jesus said to me, in this world that we're in, as people are awakening and remembering, and I don't know if this cycle will ever end. Because it's part of our personal growth. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to have some sort of experience. But what he said to me, which to me was profound, was you need to love unconditionally with condition. And
Mm,
it took me I'll still have conversations with him about more clarity around this. But the reason you have condition is because if, people will say, here's a good example. You'll see on Facebook stuff like, if you really love someone, you'll stick through it with them, no matter if they have a substance abuse problem, if they're, have domestic violence problems, because of love, you stick it through. And Jesus is like, no, no, you can unconditionally love them, saying, I love you, but this is my boundary. And my condition is that I'll stick it out with you if you get help, because that's the right thing to do. It's not, I'm going to stick it through you while you punish yourself and then I punish myself.
mm,
Does that make sense? So,
yeah.
and so many people put on other people to love them. Like my parents, of course, we love our kids with, I hate to say it, I love my kids unconditionally, but of course there's conditions. I got to make sure that you show up for yourself. I have to make sure that you go to school or that you get some type of education. I have to make sure that you take a shower every day, brush your teeth, make sure that you know how to cross the street. So all those are conditions. So if I led my kids without condition, am I hurting them or am I helping them? So we all have that. We all have conditions. What happens is if those conditions are, again, we're about finding the middle pillar. There's the extremes of both those sides, right? If someone who is violent says to you, well, you have to love me unconditionally, even if I'm this way, that's manipulation because it shouldn't be true, right? It's okay for the partner to say, I love you so much that I know you can do better. Matter of fact, I think that's why a lot of people get stuck in relationships because they see the beauty of the person before them, and the person before them has forgotten their own beauty. They forgot how amazing they are, and they don't live it because they're living in guilt, shame, fear, self punishment, right? So, going back to what you said, Dr. Cami, I think it is essential that you love yourself unconditionally, but I still have conditions for myself. And maybe one of the conditions is loving myself, getting up in the morning, taking a shower, brushing my teeth, getting ready for the day, having goals for myself. Those are conditions to my self love. Now, you can have your own conditions of uh, hating yourself, saying negative things to yourself, staying in your room in the dark with no stimulation. Like according to this study, which I wish I knew the name, there's like 8 habits that destroy your brain. And I remember a few. One is staying in a dark room, like not getting outside. Another one is listening to music too loud or things on your headphone too loud. Another one is too much exposure to social media and negative thought patterns. Right. And there's 4 more somewhere. But part of us living in this place that has a lot of dark and negative temptations, I guess, is we need to have conditions.
Hmm.
So to love unconditionally with condition, knowing that our goal is to create love for ourselves and for the person before us. But as the book, I think I told you this not too long ago, but in the book, The Illusions of the Messiah, it talks about, we're going to cause each other pain. And so when someone says, live life, you have free will, you have free choice in many places, there's some places you don't. That's just a fact of the world. But if someone said, well, I want to do whatever I want as long as I don't hurt somebody. So if you're dating someone who says to you, you can't leave me, you'll hurt me, but you're an ass to me, what does it matter? If you leave me, you'll hurt me. So we have to make choices that hurt people all the time, or we make choices that create hurt for ourselves. So we have to accept, number one, we're going to hurt each other, and then we can soften that by by understanding what we're doing and self-reflection and loving ourselves, having conditions for others, so it doesn't have to be so intense. When I do couples therapy, you'll see two people sitting in my chair, completely miserable, good, great individuals. They just aren't happy together. Something in them said, we're done, but the world says, no, you have to stay married together forever unless you hate each other. And so then people like find reasons to hate each other instead of going, I think our chapter's done. I think you taught me what I was supposed to learn in my first stages of my life. And now I'm ready to move to this next stage. And it's really a beautiful gift or opportunity when you can see that you're just done and you don't have to find reasons to hate each other. The condition is, I want to be with you and I'll give you everything until I wake up one day and I just feel like our chapter's done. For some people,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
For some people, it's multiple relationships.
No, I like that. I feel like that really encompasses why so many words are used to describe this heart chakra, right? Because heart chakra is the same, like love and grief are the same side of the coin. And so that's why when we feel like when I do guided meditations and I want someone to feel that love that felt overwhelming, I'll oftentimes say, remember the first time you held your baby, the first time you held the baby, your child. And it's interesting like how much grief comes with that too, because there's a lot more emotions around it. But when we talk about all these things, there's people say forgiveness and acceptance and compassion. And when I think of unconditional love, it's conscious love. I'm
Yeah.
like letting you be who you are. And that doesn't mean that you get me all the time or forever, but I'm allowing you to be you. I'm allowing you to feel your pain, to be your perfectly imperfect self, because I want that in return. I want to be able, my husband and I have a joke that's like, is this like a Bruce Banner situation? Or are we going to Hulk out? Like, are you like, cannot my rage come out? Like, I'm uncomfortable being angry. So can my rage come out? Can his rage come out? Like, we're going to have these things. And a lot of times I'll find myself, if I'm in a bad mood, I want to be mad at him.
Yeah.
I want to be mad at him, or he's my person, and it has nothing to do with him. But the more that I can like sit with my pain and my suffering of life, I can realize that everyone has pain and suffering, and that people who are rude, maybe they just lost their child or their parent or their best friend, and they're in pain. And the more you do that, the more compassion you feel, the more conscious love you can say, you know what, you be you. That's okay. And those conditions that you talked about are definitely necessary. And I always say boundaries, you don't know you have a boundary till it's crossed. And that's okay. It's okay to set up boundaries. Boundaries are like a screen door. You want the breeze to come in, but you don't want the bugs. But when you put up a screen door where someone has been walking, they're going to run into it and go, who the hell put a screen door here? What? And they're going to get mad. And that's okay. That's part of the process. And so we have to set up this this two-way road of conscious, let you be you, feel your pain. You can feel your pain with me, and I still love you. Um, and but that doesn't mean I have to stay in the situation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So when you talked about, your husband and how you want that type of unconditional love, you just saying that is a condition of the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in hermetics, there's polarities. So let's say that the polarity is the unconditional and the conditional love. And the middle pillar is interweaving them together, understanding they actually work together, right? I don't know. Often want to make things opposite. You're either unconditionally love me or you love me with condition. It's like both, because that's the middle pillar. That's the weaving of the fabric into the middle pillar of these opposites that could be polar opposites, because there are people who love conditionally based off of like exchange, right? Um, if you do this for me, I do this for you type of thing. That could be really negative, but so can unconditional love. It could be very enabling. So taking these what could be polarized and bringing them into the middle pillar and interweaving them can really bring collaboration of the terms,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I like that. I like that visual, bringing it together.
I say like weaving the fabric, right? And I really like when you talked about, and it's the same thing with any emotion of anger. We have two polarities. You're always angry, hateful, you're never angry, which at some point will boil up. And then there's the middle
People
pillar.
pleasing.
You're weaving together the fact that we're human. These are just part of the human emotion. If we can work through them within 15 minutes, then we had the experience, but it doesn't own us. And if we keep thinking about something at some point, it now owns us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything has polarities, and it's about finding that middle pillar. And I loved how you talked about expanding the consciousness. And by doing that, like you said, it's understanding the person before you is going through the human experience just like you are. And having compassion, taking risk with your emotions, and being vulnerable are essential for any relationship, whether it's a love partnership, a friendship, business partnership, is essential to move through to get to the other side.
Yeah, and I always say you have to sit with your pain too. Like you have to sit with your uncomfortable to let it dissolve. And the only way through is through. There's no other way around it. You're not going to get stuck in it forever. If you're going into it consciously, it will dissolve. It's like a wave. It will move through, right?
I do feel
Um,
like sometimes if you had enough experience, because so many times we repeat, and so you'll see clients keep going through the same thing, keep going through the same thing. So at some point I'll say, okay, you've been through this already. So let's use the eagle to help you fly over this, like make a decision, an observation. Wait, I've done this multiple times. Why am I repeating it? Right. And that goes back to that pillar. We're always in it, we avoid it. Or we create the middle pillar of this time I do need to move through it because there's no other options. Or this
right.
time I know this feeling. I know this. I've been there. Do I really need to re-experience this whole thing, or can I fly around it because it's done? You know.
There's a poem. I think I'm gonna probably butcher this a little bit, but I love it, and it talks through that trauma and that awareness. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a big hole. I don't see it. I fall in. It's not my fault. It's dark. It takes me forever to get out. Chapter 2. I walk down the street. There's a big hole. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in. It's dark. I get out a little faster. It's my fault. Or it's not my fault. Chapter 3. I walk down the street. There's a big hole. I I do see it. I fall in. This is my fault. It's a habit. I get out right away. Chapter 4, I walk down the street. I see a big hole. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk a different street.
Beautiful. I
And
love
it's,
it.
yeah,
Perfect. That's what life is, right? Yeah. So there's these two gods. There's the a male bull god that will help you if you need to move through it. You just call in that force energy. I've been watching Star Wars lately, and you talk about the dark force and the light force, and both of them are very powerful forces. You know what I mean? But you can use the bull force to move through stuff, like you said earlier, and then you can use the eagle to fly over things. And again, it's the middle pillar. The light and dark force sometimes are essential depending on what you're going through.
Mhm.
I don't know why that came in.
But there's such a softening, and there's a humble aspect of this unconditional, compassionate love piece, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like there's a softening when you're around someone who has, I mean, everyone's been in pain, and when you're around someone who just is there for you to feel your pain and you can just be with them. Um, they're like it's not that they're an untouched flower. Like Mark Twain, what is it? Forgiveness is the fragrance of the violet, um, left on the shoe that has crushed it.
Oh.
And it's like, that's what that love and that unconditional, that compassion is. Like, you're just someone who people can be with, and they don't have to pretend to be someone else, and they don't have to, and we're trained to be other people. We're trained from early age that this behavior didn't get us what we wanted from our parents, but this behavior did. And our that unconditional love thing, I think, comes from feeling like our parents have one mission. As a parent, you have one mission, and so many people don't know the mission, so they
Keep
failed
your
at
kids
it.
alive. No, I'm just kidding. I've
Well,
heard
that,
people say that.
but to show them that they are loved, that they're unconditionally loved, or they are loved with who they are.
Yeah.
And everyone has trauma. Everybody has to go through this, where it doesn't matter how much you try to prevent your child from feeling this, they're going to feel like, I'm too loud, they like me quiet. I'm too wild, they want me calm, or whatever it is. And they start to adjust their behaviors because of that. And the stories that we write in those moments are what we carry through. And so when you can sit with your pain and you can accept your story and you have compassion, and it goes outward, right? You go inward. It's all about you and survival, and you go in and you sit with your pain, and then it blossoms into this compassion that you see everyone around you has pain they're carrying around. And then you soften, and there's this lack of judgment, there's lack of criticism. There's a forgiveness of the pain and the trauma, because it helped you get to this point where your eyes are open and you see, right?
But yeah, that
So,
compassion for yourself to get to that point. Like
so
when you
yeah.
when you were talking, you brought you were talking about, how we're taught, like you talk too loud or this happens. It's interesting because I don't think there's any scathing, no matter how good of a parent you are, that your child's perspective is going to be their perspective. And they're going to have their stories and their journey so they can understand these different levels of emotion. But the one thing is very interesting is here's two concepts. Um, I'm not allowed to take care of myself, and I have to make sure someone else is fixed. So everyone's stuck in a cycle, right? It's this cyclic thing like, oh, you're hurting. What can I do to serve you? And then the other one's like, no, I'm not allowed to be served. I have to serve you. So there's no, I like the words serve and receive. And I'll ask groups when I'm doing groups, big classes, and it never falters. I'll say, how many of you guys like to serve? And they all raise their hand. And then I'll say, okay, how many of you like to receive? Nobody. Now it's getting better when people are doing the healing, but then I'm like, okay, well, if none of you want to serve, or if everyone wants to serve and nobody wants to receive, then what's the point of serving? And so if you go back to that middle pillar, to the conditional love and unconditional, is you have to use discernment because we're taught to serve other people and sometimes to not serve ourselves, or that's selfish. So you have to use discernment in the situation, because let's say everything is right and everybody's wrong. I don't. So you're in this room, you have this person in front of you that you absolutely love and they're hurting. Or even if you just care about them as a human. I don't know about you, Cami, but you could be a stranger to me and if I can feel your pain, I just want to serve, you know? But then this is where discernment comes in, and you say, I have this desire to serve this person, but is it my job to serve them in this capacity? Because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's our only job is to hold space and to see their pain, but not to fix it because they have to fix it. They have to realize they are strong enough or deserve to be healed. Now, in research, this was years ago, about 5 years, maybe longer than that, where there was a study done on the homeless population, with the homeless outreach team. And what they discovered was that they would go to someone who was homeless, say chronically homeless, because nowadays there's homeless because of housing price, like just some things. And they would go to someone and say, "Hey, I really want to help you get a home." And they're like, "Nope, I'm good." And what the research found was it took 75 contacts at least, planting the seed that they're worth having a house before they accepted the help. Because they were taught not to receive, to be prideful. They're not worthy of a house because maybe they made some bad choices. So someone saying, "I see you, you deserve a home, you deserve healing," took them, the watering, the plant, someone planted the seed and then kept watering it, right? Maybe 75 different people. And finally they're like, "You know what? I think I'm ready." 75 times. Because
Yep. Isn't that wild?
we don't understand this concept of polarity. Like, you know how they say there's light and dark and everything. But with every emotion, if it was the same thing, even that the term serve and receive, middle pillar, and in this situation, I use discernment. And even though I want to do blank, this person needs it more than I, so I'm using discernment. I'm going to serve them over myself right now. But in the next situation, no, I need this more. I'm going to serve me over that. Not one person is wrong, but we've been taught to say, "Oh, you're selfish if you do that," or "You're, careless if you do that," versus going, "Well, let me use discernment here. Does this align with the situation?" Right. And this goes back to we can still unconditionally love all these beings before us with conditions of the situation, right? Is this a calling? Like when I was in law enforcement, there was this guy. Sorry, the truck next door is loud. Should I yell? Turn it off.
I don't hear it, but
I was like, it's so loud. You don't hear it yet?
no, but that's
So
okay.
it's off. So
Okay.
I was talking about, oh, there's this guy, and we kept getting calls after calls after calls on this guy. This guy, you guys need to go help him. He's homeless. He's on the corner. He's wearing dirty clothes, and he's dirty on his face, and he's asking for stuff. And we'd go back, and we'd found that this guy actually has all the resources. He has a house, he has all the stuff, but he's chosen to live this lifestyle. Now, could I say possibly on one extreme that because he was so homeless for so long that he doesn't know how to live outside of that norm? Sure. And that maybe 75 contacts got him to say yes to the house, but doesn't know quite how to live in the house? Yes. But there's also the other possibility that he chooses to live this way because other research shows that they make thousands and like $40 an hour doing it, right?
Mhm.
And so there's always polarities. And so if we use discernment in each situations, for that guy, for example, giving him the money versus teaching him how to like be self-sufficient would be not out of real love, but enabling. And so unless you know the full story, we really can't judge the outside. What do they say? Never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, it's hard to help people because people they have to want it themselves. And so
That
but
75
it's same thing.
contacts gets them to hopefully wanting themselves one day.
Well, there's that piece. I mean, you can offer. You're there, you're that softened, you're the fragrance of the violet leaf left on a shoe. I've been crushed. I've been stepped on. I'm not an untouched flower, but I'm here. I see your pain. I hold my own pain.
Yeah.
It's the same with depression. Jordan Peterson will always ask, "Do you want to heal your depression? Do you want it to go away?" And a lot of times people say no because they enjoy, maybe not enjoy is the right word. They like the conditions of their life. They like the low expectations that they have. And not everyone is here to heal. And we get in this habit of I can fix you, I can fix you, I can fix you. But when you look at unconditional love and oneness, it's not anything more than I see you and I accept you for all of that you are. It doesn't mean that, again, I'm going to be there for you forever. If it's, I have to love myself too. Right. And so it's, it's a journey for a healer for sure. Especially, I always quote Jesus, like, you can't, or well, I don't know if I'm quoting him, but I always say Jesus couldn't heal in his own town either. So, like, you cannot change your family. Like, you're not going to do it. Like, just let it go. You might have a fluke. Like, my mom loves everything I have to say, which I'm like, yay, someone listen, she's always been encouraging. But for the most part, you can't, some people just don't want your help, and it's not about you, and it's not, they have to find their own path. And our hearts are designed to hear something from certain people, and certain teachers have to, like, that's why it's important to speak and teach, because some people are meant to hear it from you. Like, I've heard so many spiritual concepts over the last 20 years of my life, and I'll hear it now from somebody. Oh, it's like, oh, that makes sense. So I've been, all of the times that it's been explained, now I get it. So it's okay to set those screen doors, those boundaries of leaving, because maybe you're not that person that's going to push them through, but you can have compassion. You can have forgiveness for the pain that you've experienced and the pain that other people have put on you, and be that fragrance of the violet. You're not an untouched flower. You're just here softened, and you see the world with these open eyes, and you see it with compassion.
Yeah. I do say it's important to know that just because you have compassion for someone doesn't mean you have to agree to how their lifestyle is. If you feel compelled to plant a seed, maybe feed some water, because all those videos that you listened to prior, they all planted a seed in you. They planted enough knowledge. That's what we do with our children. We hope to plant enough tools, seeds, and knowledge that one day becomes wisdom. One day it's become acted upon, and the compassion kind of flourishes, right? But if those people before that one person said that to you, if they didn't, maybe this person would have been just the seed, right? So
Yeah.
this is why I tell people, like, going back to your um there's many paths up the mountain, right? And so some people lately have been saying to me, it's not my place, everyone has their own stories, so I just don't do anything. I'm like, but sometimes your influence gets them from this path that they think they should be on and puts them on the path just next door that is easier. They all have their own stories, they all have their own mountains, but if you feel compelled, why just watch someone struggle? You normally know, and you can feel when it's time to share, when it's time, right? Now, if you start to feel desperate for the person and want to control them, then you're buying into their health more than they are, right? But if
I did it.
you just keep getting compelled, like, I just need to make this comment. Like, I was at the park the other day, and I was talking to this lovely lady, and I just kept seeing a vision of a book in my mind, right? And it came in 3 or 4 times, and I said, "Hey, do you like book clubs?" And I told her about my book club. And she said, "Yeah." And so I felt compelled. But if I felt like I was going to force it, the reaction probably would have been different, because I'm putting my opinion at that point, or my belief, onto someone else. So when you can release, like you said, and just be that presence, the information of the energy just kind of flows naturally. There's no, like, force. There's just, I don't know, calmness. Just is. And that's what Jesus and any of the, and light workers like Buddha, Kuan Yin, it's like this just knowing. There's not a force to it. Now, it's hard as humans because I mean, I do believe we really love people. And I think all humans, even in the darkest of the places in the world, is just a lot of broken. But when you really love, you don't want to see anyone suffer. And so sometimes you think your opinion matters over theirs. And so then you try to force it. Some laws are forced that are merely opinion, has nothing to do with love or mental health or anything. It's just, this shouldn't happen because I think it shouldn't happen. Well, for your story, possibly not. That's your condition, right? And so if you can get to the place where you just relinquish control, I mean, again, all of us, I would think most of us would be on the same page 99% when it came to something that was severely evil. Does that make sense? Versus an opinion, right? And so if it's my opinion, like, Dr. Cami, you need to do, you need to just do acupuncture because that's what you went to school for. And you're like, I'm gonna make a law. If you go to school to be a doctor, this is all you can do, then that's an opinion, right? But if you're doing something to harm someone, like not just hurt, but harm, that's a whole different story. So this is why conditions and unconditional things are super important, because sometimes things do need conditions because we're a broken, I don't want to say broken, but yet we are. That goes back to that pillar. We're not completely
Yeah.
broken, we're remembering, but we have to accept that we don't know everything and we're working towards perfection. So we must accept that we're not perfect and stop saying that we are. I love the phrase, it was on a water bottle, I'm perfectly imperfect,
Mm.
because I know I'm not perfect, but I strive every day to be better,
Yeah.
right? Versus like I am perfect the way I am and ignore the fact that maybe there's something wrong with my health, or there's something wrong with my mental health or something like that, right? Anyways, not sure.
Yeah, I like that. The tools, the questions that I tend to use in that discernment aspect, and that keeps me in line with the joy and the pleasure and the open eyes of it all is, am I doing this for acceptance or attention? Because I have a people pleaser codependency root.
Yeah.
I thought it was through working on, but it just keeps coming back in different areas. But then on the flip side, is this being done deliberately? Is this
Yeah.
being done maliciously? Because especially with my partner, who has had a very different childhood than I have. I mean, a lot of different experiences in life, just different mindsets, different everything. I am not 100% right all the time in my parenting, in how I clean, and everything. And if I can distinguish, like, he's making me upset for whatever reason, is it being done maliciously? Never, never. It's like, no, of course not. He's unconscious that his actions are triggering me in whatever which way. And so I can let that go then. I can have a conversation if I need to. But for the most part, I'm like, we just had a conversation the other day about our overarching goal and aim with parenting is the same.
Yeah.
But our kids are getting older now. So the way that we're starting to parent can be different. And it's not wrong. One's not better than the other. It's just different. And the kids are okay with having different responses from different parents. That's fine. Right. And so then it's like, oh, I can sit with my uncomfortable and with my pain, and I can realize that this is just for whatever reason coming up in me, and I can love him unconditionally. I can consciously love him and let him be him. And on the other side of that, when I feel like something is coming, I can say, am I doing this for acceptance or attention? Oh, okay. And then I can work on working through that piece of my internal being. And all of that does is opens my eyes up and lets me just enjoy what, like, things the way that they are without feeling like this control that you have to have over every little thing. I don't have to have control over stuff. I can just let things be.
So with the other stuff we talked about, with the basis of conditional and unconditional love and the polarities, what question would you leave the audience so they can work on understanding this?
Um, is it true? That's the one I've been playing with. Is it true? Is the story that you're telling yourself in your head, and it might have, like, ooh, imagination gone down that rabbit hole, whether fantasy or imagination, doom or daydream, when you come to and you feel like you feel this in your body, is it true?
I like
Is
that.
it true? And if and then this is Byron Katie, right? So from the Diamond Sutra, is it true? There's 4 questions, but you can flip that truth 180 and make it true the other way around. No one ever like one of my things that I just and you start to realize like the automatic or the habitual like thoughts that come in and you're like, no one cares about how I feel. I say that to myself constantly because I feel like sometimes my workload is a little heavy or heavier than my husband's. And no one cares about how I feel. And then I switch it and go, okay, is that true? No. But maybe I don't care about other people's needs, or maybe they care too much about my needs. And you can play around with there's truth in both. Like, of course I'm going to care about my needs the most. They're mine.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
what I would say. Is it true?
you just described how to use discernment, and this is the going back to the middle pillar, the two extremes, and looking at both of them and bringing it to the middle because they can both be true. You can
Yeah.
maybe some people don't care about what you have to say, and sometimes you don't care about what other people say, right? And so I really like that question. Is it true? And then look at your pillars, and then is it in the middle or are you on one extreme or the other, and find that middle pillar.
Yeah. It's a good one for, especially if you have anxiety. Just put a post-it note on your mirror or somewhere. Is it true?
Yeah, I
Play
love
around
it.
with it.
I
Yeah.
think we'll leave the audience with that question is it true? And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and like us and share us with those that you think would benefit. And if you have any questions that you would like us to address, and then put it in the comments and we will get to it.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you
All
guys.
right. Bye.
Bye.